China's National People's Congress, the annual meeting of the country's parliament, has completed its first week. Usually these are pretty boring affairs. Government ministers report their accomplishments and outline what they plan to do next year. Sometimes, though, the delegates are given the opportunity to present ideas of their own, but mostly they are there to listen, applaud, and approve. Now, there are some signs that this year's Congress is going to be different. First, the delegates will vote on a new president and prime minister for 10-year terms. There are, of course, only two candidates. Communist Party Chairman Xi Jinping will become president. Keqiang will become prime minister and lead a new crop of ministers. But that's not all. There seems to be a spirit of reform this year in Beijing. To give us his insights, we have our contributor, David Bandurski from Hong Kong, with us on Skype. Good to have you, David.
Thanks. Good to be here.
David, in his last speech, outgoing Premier Jiabao sounded gloomy about growing inequality between China's cities and rural areas and the income gap. Was that a warning to the new leadership, or was it a signal that these problems are going to be tackled seriously?
You asked about Wen Jiabao's mood. I think Wen Jiabao, we can only guess here, but he has pushed reform, including political reform, very actively in the last few years. He's had a number of noted remarks about political reform, and he's gotten a lot of flack within the party, a lot of tension over this issue of political reform. So I'm sure we can guess to some degree that he has a level of disappointment about what he's not been able to accomplish while in office.
So amid that backdrop, what reform ideas specifically are being floated now, and which ones do you take seriously?
Well, I think there's one in particular, and that's about the labor re-education system, reform of the labor re-education system that we might see some action on. They've been talking for a number of months, including a lot of state media coverage about this issue. So it's definitely moving into the mainstream. So maybe we'll see some action on this. It'll be a slow process of reform. It won't be a magic bullet overnight where the system is just completely dismantled. Another big issue we may not see action on, but is getting a lot of talk, is the one-child policy, which a lot of people have heard about outside China as well. But there's a lot of talk about the need to reform the one-child policy and allow more families to have more than one child in order to ensure China's economic health. So this has become much more of an economic issue now for China.
Very interesting. Well, at the same time, it's speculated that Xi Jinping's China is going to be even more nationalistic and will throw its weight around with its neighbors. They point to the increased military budget, for example. What do you make of all that?
Another thing we should note, I think if I can kind of twist your question here, we've had the third year in a row where the budget for internal security, domestic security in China, which is funding military police or riot police, excuse me, basically mobilization of police within China to deal with growing unrest. So I think that's in some ways a more important issue because it does reflect the urgency of all of these issues we're talking about migrant workers, land issues in the development of China's cities, which is already loudly touted as a priority, this urbanization. So it's creating a lot of unrest, and the only response to that right now is what's called stability preservation. So in a way, it's an ongoing war within China against its own people.
Very interesting. Well, David, always a pleasure to have your insights on this show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
David Bandurski is LinkAsia's Hong Kong contributor and the editor of the China Media Project at Hong Kong University. You can read more about him on our experts page.
Now on U.S. airwaves, a global channel of uncompromising stories. World news, documentaries, entertainment, and culture. Link TV, connecting you to the world. For more information, visit linktv.org.